I'm no expert on Hindi movies and really, rarely choose a film for a theme for national interest, my weekly column. So rarely that in more than 20 years, I don't believe that I have done it more than thrice. The two in the past were in 2001, Dil Chahta Hai, Farhan Akhtar's film, in 2015, Masan, made by Neeraj Ghewan, and now this week, Mulk, film made by another creative director, Anubhav Sinha. Now, why does Mulk make that cut? And what is it that is so special about this film that a political columnist writes a full 1300 words on it? In my recollection, it's the first film that treats a Muslim family as a Muslim family and tells you their story. Not good, not bad. Like every family, it has some people who are good, some people who are bad. It has its problems, dilemmas. Look at the history of Hindi cinema and how it's portrayed Muslims. Muslims have been rarely portrayed in Hindi cinema. In fact, there's a 2011 study that showed that very few Hindi films featured Muslim characters, especially as key characters. Now, until the end of the 60s, maybe until the, I would say, the Pakiza phase, Muslims were featured either as romantic and powerful characters from Mughal history. There was Mughal Azam for sure, there was Taj Mahal, there was Razia Sultan, and then there were the Muslim socials, where you had these so-called Muslim gentry in sherwanis singing Sher-o Shairi and with Muhammad Rafi's voice, Mere Mehboob, from Mere Mehboob to I'd say Pakisa. But really, these were then Muslim characters in Muslim milieus, whether they were Mughals or they were feudals of Lucknow and wherever. Then came a change in the 70s, in the angry young man 70s, and a new kind of Muslim character was introduced by Pran in Prakash Mehra's Zanjeer in 1973. Do you remember Sher Khan in that film? Pran playing Sher Khan and singing Yari Hai Iman Mera Yar Meri Zindagi. And why was he doing it? He was doing it to cheer up his morose buddy, namely Amitabh Bachchan, the angry young man. So in that phase, the Muslim was an honorable man, but usually ended up playing second fiddle to his Hindu buddy and often sacrificing his life for him. We saw it later in a film with Sunny Deol, where Priyanka Chopra played his Muslim wife. I think it was called The Hero, but again ended up sacrificing her life. There was, after this angry young man phase, there was a terrorism phase, which I call the Sunny Deol phase of Indian cinema, where Muslims were usually painted as terrorists, bad guys, Pakistanis, and Mr. Sunny Deol usually went out and slayed all of them. Some of those films, Gadar, for example, these were among the most communal films ever made. And in some ways, these films communalized the mind of an entire Indian generation, where the default definition of Muslim became a terrorist or a bad guy or unpatriotic or unfaithful, etc., etc., etc. In fact, in one of those films that we talk about in the column, when Sunny Deol comes in to do his stuff, you hear the background noises, sounds of chants of Om Namah Shivaya. And when the bad guy, Muslim, comes, then you hear in the background sort of Arabian sounding music, typically Arabian sounding music, and chants of Allah, Allah from somewhere. So there was stereotyping to that extent. And then you saw an effort at turning things around. You saw Chak De India, and then you saw New York, and then after that, My Name is Khan. And in Malayalam, there was a film Anwar, although my knowledge of non-Hindi cinema is very poor. And then Vishwarupam. In different ways, they had Muslim as a good guy. In Vishwarupam, of course, they have Muslims as bad guys also. But there was an effort to change that image. But once again, the Muslim was either a good guy or a bad guy. This film, on the other hand, I am no film reviewer. This film is interesting because this has come at a very polarized time in Indian society, where our society, our electorate, everything is being divided on a Hindu-Muslim basis. We are now vertically split. But this film talks of Muslims as a mainstream issue, a Muslim family as a mainstream family, and all its fears and dilemmas. In fact, halfway in the film, you start feeling all the dilemmas and insecurities and fears of a heartland Muslim family. There is pull of patriotism, there is a pull of religion, there is propaganda that injustices are taking place against Muslims all over. Why don't you go and take revenge? There is a need for jobs, and there is oodles of time because there are no jobs. So all that, and you can then imagine, it's so beautifully done that by the middle of it, you start imagining that you are a member of the family and feeling the same insecurities. I think this film looks India in the eye. This film gets Muslims to look India in the eye. These are not specially patriotic Muslims. These are not exceptions. In fact, if anything, the filmmaker challenges the notion that, oh, we also have Havaldar Abdul Hamid and Dr. APJ Kalam and Ustad Bismillah Khan. The film, on the other hand, says that most Muslims are like them. Those who are terrorists or bad guys, they are exceptions, not good Muslims. It's not as if only good Muslims are exceptions. And I think the film therefore makes a very strong political point at this time. It's quite fitting that the film has chosen Varanasi as its base. It reminds me of a conversation I had many years back with Ustad Bismillah Khan while shooting a Walk the Talk in Varanasi. I asked him, Ustad ji, सन 47 में आपको तो जिन्ना ने कहा था कि पाकिस्तान आ जाइए, why did you go to Pakistan? So he said, अरे पाकिस्तान में कोई बनारस है क्या? And then he said that, look, my favorite raga is Bhairavi. I cannot play the Bhairavi without Lord Shiva's blessings. So I said, but you are a Muslim, are you allowed to go to the temple? So he smiled and said, no, there is a temple in my area. They don't let me come in. So I go around the temple and I touch the wall from outside because the deity is resting against the wall. So that city has that kind of spirit. And that's the kind of spirit that a vast majority of Indian Muslims also have. This film challenges that. Remember, 1 out of 7 Indians is a Muslim. That will make, in the 2021 census, 20 crore Muslims. If you make no effort to understand them, if you paint them all as good for nothing, disloyal people with the odd Abdul Kalam or Bismillah Khan or Abdul Hamid as an exception, then you are walking into a very difficult situation. So I'm very glad that this film was made, and it inspired me to write this week's national interest around it.